Hey everyone, welcome to Meeple Bits. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to go through Sid Meier's Civilization: A New Dawn, a game published by Fantasy Flight Games for 2 to 4 players with a playtime of roughly 1 to 2 hours. So, I started playing Civ 5 and a lot of Civ 6 again lately, so I thought, you know what, let me break out Civilization: A New Dawn, so played a few more games of that one. Happens from time to time. I get addicted to Civ, and then I just want to play it. So I thought now is pretty much a good time to go ahead and do this how to play video of the Civilization: A New Dawn. So stay tuned as I go ahead and set up the table and bring it to you guys. Hey everyone. Welcome to a 2-player setup of the game Civilization: A New Dawn, or I guess Sid Meier's Civilization: A New Dawn. Components. Let's take a quick look at everything that's going to come out during the course of play. All players will receive a focus track in their color, and these are all identical for all players. A set of focus cards, again, identical for all players. Ocean tiles, city-state tiles, map tiles, barbarian tracker, barbarian movement token, tech dial, natural wonders, world wonder cards, and world wonder tokens in each military, culture, economy, and science, resources, oil, marble, mercury, and gems or diamonds, victory condition cards, diplomacy cards in each player color, caravans for each player color, control tokens for each player, cities and capital city, one capital city and then there's other normal cities. You'll see they're slightly different. And that's it. Oh, sorry, barbarian tokens as well. These are all, and lastly, a pair of dice to be used during combat, and the different civilizations to choose from, each explaining their individual abilities that may be used, as well as how to set up your initial focus track. And that's it. All the components that'll come out during the course of play. So before we dive in, I'm going to go ahead and address the individual things happening because the setup is quite a bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at the initial setup of the map tiles. For this demonstration, I've used the first playthrough setup in the instruction book. So you want to go through and read exactly which tiles you need to place in what order and what area. Once you have the tiles placed, then go and start to populate the map with the city-states. You'll want to see on the board to make sure that the city-state matches the location and type. Set up the natural wonders in their respective locations, also indicated on the map tiles. Place the resources where they belong as well, marble on marble. Place the barbarians on their letter indicated, so this one is I, so I'll put it on the I location. And then place your capital cities to whichever spot you're closest to. So, America green is closest to this location, and Egypt red is closest to this location. And then finally, place the barbarian position marker anywhere around the map. The player that places that marker is then going to be the first player. Next, either select a civilization or randomly deal them out, but each player should receive a player board of their civilization, their colored control tokens, their additional cities, their caravans for trade routes, their focus board, and their focus cards. Once you've received them, set up your focus board in the order as indicated on the bottom of your civilization. So here, Cleopatra of Egypt would set up with astrology, foreign trade, pottery, masonry, early empire, and America's initial setup is masonry, astrology, pottery, early empire, and foreign trade. Next, take your caravan token, placing it onto your foreign trade card, like so. And then make sure everyone also has their science dial of their player color and their diplomacy cards in their player color. Next, create your pool of wonders, like so, and the diplomacy cards for each of the city-states that have been selected for whatever map tiles were chosen. Here in this initial first game setup, it's going to be Buenos Aires, Seoul, and Carthage. So I've put those out here like so. For the wonders, in a two-player game, remove one ancient and one medieval wonder. So you're only going to be using 4 wonders of each type. Then reveal the ancient wonder on the top of each deck and make sure that you've got your wonder tiles ready to go as well. And lastly, select 3 victory card to 3 random victory cards of the ones available. On each of them, there will be 2 possible conditions to be met. Oh, and make sure that each player receives the rest of their focus cards. In addition, go ahead and set the barbarian marker with the player who's going to be first, because each time their turn comes around, they're going to need to manage this. Create a supply pool of resources, as well as trade markers. And that's it. The game is set up and ready to be played. So, how do you play? How do you win? How do you win is by completing 3 objectives available in the victory conditions. You must complete 1 of each of the 3 objectives, either or. So, here under Populace, let me go and grab it, there we go. Under this victory condition, you can either complete the Populace or complete the Preservationist. Preservationist means that you control 2 natural wonders, and here there's only 2 of them out there, so in order to complete this victory condition, I'd have to complete 2 of them. The other one, Populace, is to control 5 completed cities. Sorry, 5 mature cities. A mature city is your capital city, which is already considered mature. So 1 of 5 is already completed. So you must then mature 4 other cities. How you would do that is by getting a city into a location and then having it surrounded by your control markers. And then that is a mature city. So the other victory condition on this card is 5 mature cities. So to win the game, complete all 3 of these in one of the other. So let's start by taking some turns and what a round of play would look like. So to play the game, you're using your focus track here to determine both the action and how powerful that action, as well as the type of tiles the action can be done on. So here in this example, mountains are always in your 5th position, and you can always do that action on whichever number you've chosen to activate by, let's say, just signaling it that I'm using this action in my focus on that tile type or lower. So if you look around on the board, you've got desert tiles, you've got some hills, or sorry, rather grasslands, mountains, forest, and these little muddy spots are hills. So if I were to activate, say, Early Empire, just as the example, then I would do the action that it says on the card. Let's take a closer look. Place 2 control tokens on spaces matching this slot's terrain or lower that are adjacent to friendly cities. So if I were to activate Early Empire, I would take 2 of my control tokens and then surround them or put them next to any cities that I control on the board. So during the course of play, once you've chosen a card to activate, you are then going to choose it. So the play is done in 3 parts. Choose a card, do the card, reset the card. 1, I've chosen this card. I will then do its action in accordance to the instructions, and then I will reset, which means everything will slide down, and I will move this into the farthest left, or sort of weakest position. And you're going to do that no matter which one you choose to activate. So let's say I activated this card. Well, this one's going to slide down, and that's going to slide into the first position. So over time, you're sort of kind of building up a little engine to get any one of these, shifted over. And over time, each of these will become the most powerful to execute and then getting the most use from it. After a player has taken their turn, then the next player does the same thing. Then, if there were, say, 4 people around the table, once all players have taken a turn and it goes back to the first player, that's when you're then going to move barbarians. So, to start the game, this should begin on the blank position. No, sorry. This should begin on the star position. So essentially, after the first turn, what's going to happen is once it goes around, then you're going to move this dial to the right. So after the first round, you essentially get a bereave from needing to do anything with the barbarians. So this token starts here. Next, it'll go into this position. Next, it'll go into the barbarian movement position. When this happens, the player's going to roll the die. And in accordance to the barbarian token, which is a little off screen, there we go. So you're going to look at this dial, and the 1 is on this far left. Then all these barbarians are going to move 1 space to the left, if they can. So example, this one's going to go here. And then if next turn it were to then go into the ocean, it wouldn't move at all. On the next round is going to be the resource. All players are going to receive a supply token to then put on any one of their 5 focus cards. And then at the bottom of each focus card, it'll tell you that if you activate a supply token, in this case, you'll get +1 control token. So in early Empire, when I'm placing 2 control tokens, if I had a supply token on this card, I could then place 3 control tokens. Next one, they're going to move again. And then lastly, any defeated barbarians would come back out and return to their original positions. If no barbarians are defeated, then nothing happens. Or if the tile is covered up with, say, a new city, then no barbarians may spawn there again. So, put that there. Build your resource pile, did that. Okay, and that's it, ready to go. So each of these will kind of do something different, and as you upgrade these with your science token, so as you increase your science, once you've hit each of these markers, 2, 2, 3, 3, and finally 4 and 4. Once you've been able to move your dial first into, say, the 3 position, that's when you're going to be able to go through your second age and select an upgrade for any one of these positions. So you're going to move the card out, and this new card becomes the new action to do. So your culture, or your kind of early empire, that is all about placing control tokens. The masonry, you'll see there's a military icon. That's all about reinforcing your control tokens, so being able to flip them from their normal side to their reinforced side. Pottery allows you to build either a world wonder or build a city in accordance with the legal spaces that are available. Foreign trade is all about moving this caravan out of mature cities or your capital city, again in accordance to the instructions here, and only through the terrain or lower at which it was activated. And then astrology, or rather the science token, is how you advance your science dial. And that's it. That's the initial setup, from getting the tiles out, setting up your wonders, your city-state diplomacy cards, each player getting everything that they require, resources and supply, and then getting ready for the barbarians. So let's go ahead and take a turn for each player, just so that you can get a quick idea of how to sort of activate and resolve some things. So for player 1, or Egypt, my special ability is the cost of all world wonders is reduced by 1 for me. So when I pay the cost of the world wonders, as indicated on the cards here, sorry, and I guess let me go ahead and address the world wonders really quickly. So in the lower left is the cost to activate this. So to build a world wonder, I need pottery to be, in any position, and then I get to take that value. So let's say if it's on a mountain, I'll take that value and any production that I might also have, as indicated here. Or down in the lower right is some additional resources, oil and diamond. I may use oil and diamond resources to put towards the building of this wonder, and each of those resources count as 2 production towards it. So this takes us 7 total. So I would need pottery to be in, say, the 5th position, and have taken one of these resources of oil or diamonds so that I can have my 7, or have some supply tokens on there so that I can get myself up to the 7. Then I can build this wonder. So then, as far as building a city, I may build a city on a legal space of this slot's terrain or lower within 2 spaces of a friendly space. So immediately, I can only build a city 2 spaces away from an existing city, because that's the only friendly space that I have out there. So I would need to sort of get a control token if I wanted to spread myself out a little bit further. Then also taking in consideration what these 3 victory cards are kind of pushing me towards, either building 8 cities, getting 2 economy wonders, taking over 2 city-states, or getting 2 military wonders, 5 mature cities, or 2 of these guys, the natural wonders. But looking at that, I kind of want to get my masonry, I want to kind of get my science up so that I can get these guys upgraded. So I need to get astrology all the way over here. So I'm going to need to take 4 turns to do that. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do foreign trade. When you complete foreign trade, once you've reached either a city-state or another player's city, then you are able to receive supply tokens, 2. And then if you reach a city-state, you can take one of these up here, the diplomacy cards. And if you reach another player's city-state, you can then take one of their diplomacy cards. But for this turn, let me go ahead and do an early empire. Place 2 tokens near my city. Now I'm definitely going to put one on that mountain because, well, I'm not going to waste this mountain terrain. And then the only other legal space is here. Then I reset everybody over and put him into the 1st position. Now, player 2's turn. He's got foreign trade all the way in the 5th spot, so he's going to take advantage of that. Activating his caravan from his home city, foreign trade says move each of your caravans up to 3 spaces, only in terrain matching this tile or lower. So I can basically run across any terrain that I so desire, but I cannot move over water. So you know what? I'm going to go up to Seoul. 1, 2, 3. Now foreign trade gets pushed all the way down here, like so. Now it's first player's turn. First player, once it comes back around, they move the barbarian dial. In this round, nothing happens. And then play resumes. Player 1 then chooses a focus, does the action accordingly, and then resets the focus bar. And that's it. That's how you play the game. There's a few nuances as far as attacking and things like that, so let's go ahead and take a look at what that might look like just as an example. So here with masonry, I can either reinforce control markers or perform up to 2 attacks within 2 spaces of a friendly space. Your combat value equals this slot's number. So because masonry was all the way here in the number 5 slot, I start with a combat value of 5. And then anything I attack, now mind you, I also cannot, count over illegal spaces. And right now, water is an illegal space, so I wouldn't be able to attack this guy. But this one I can do, because here's a friendly token, 2 spaces away. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's resolve combat so you can get an idea of how that plays. So for all the different types of combat that can happen, please refer to the instruction manual. But you can attack a barbarian, a city-state, another player's control token, or another player's city. And each of them operate a little bit differently depending on which one you're doing. But in the case of a barbarian, which we're going to attack now, their initial defense is equal to the terrain that they're in. This barbarian is in a mountain, so he starts with a 5. But I also start with a 5 because that's my attack. Next, the player and the barbarian get to roll a die. So for the barbarians, another player would take control of rolling for that. So as the player, I'm going to go ahead and roll for my power, a 5. And then another player is going to roll for the barbarians, a 1. Then you're going to take that and add them together. So I've got my 5 plus 5, so I've got 10 attack. Then I've got the barbarian, 5 and 1, which is only 6. So I've successfully defeated this barbarian. Take their token off the board. And then once I've done that, I'm going to resolve what the barbarians will give me. In the case of a barbarian, I'm going to take 1 supply token and put it on a card of my choosing. Now, as I mentioned, I really want to get my science up, but I also need some world wonders. So I'm going to put this on my pottery so that in the future turn I can use this as production towards the world wonder. And so that's how combat would happen. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and tear this down and stay tuned for my afterthoughts. Thanks so much. Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that setup and playthrough of the game Sid Meier's Civilization: A New Dawn. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The components were pretty good, you know. I liked the map tiles, really cool. Being able to randomize that also adds to some replayability. Definitely enjoy that. Cards are all right. The small ones are decent. The dials, they've stood up with a lot of play time, I guess, you know, and a lot of kind of back and forth and twisting. So no issues there. Where I do have problems is, I guess, in the initial setup for the components, is that the box insert is just a bunch of baggies, right? And in fact, I think I needed to go get more baggies just to hold all the player tokens. So that kind of bothers me when the game doesn't just come with things inherently to keep things organized. You guys know that, you know, I got a little bit of OCD when it comes to things like that. So when there isn't any organization in the box, you know, it makes setup or tear down kind of daunting, and it pulls away from the fun that I should otherwise be having by diving into a game. This game is really good for the type of player, I'd say sort of medium to heavy strategic, right? What I really liked about the game was that focus track, you know, being every power having the ability to get powered up, or I guess every focus having the ability to be something really big, and then timing that throughout the game to either need to reinforce tokens, even though, you know, you might have done it a little too soon. So I thought the focus track worked out really well for this game. But one thing that, again, kind of pulled back from the game was the constant need to look into the book for combat resolution. So that one, at least for me, you know, it took me quite a bit to even remember that barbarians were this and things like that. Because the barbarians, the city-states, and everything, they operate differently. and city-states have one value, but then player cities have a different value, and then there's modifiers based around other tokens that might be around it. So that one, I always needed to keep the book on hand because for me, it wasn't so intuitive. So why should you add this game to your collection? Well, if you enjoy area control games that have a sort of light engine mechanic to it in that focus track, it adds a little bit something new to that area control. Now keep in mind though that it's an area control game. So I remember my first playthrough, I'm like, it took me a minute to kind of wrap my mind around not moving like a worker or putting something on the board and that being sort of my marker for action. So I had to remember that my control tokens and cities needed to be put out there, and those were what I used to then leverage my next turn. So it took me a minute to kind of get used to, but once I got that piece down, really cool and enjoyable. And that damn focus track, it's really fun, and that adds such a heavy layer of strategy to the game because again, while your opponents are constantly going for what they're trying to get and, looking at the victory, like, all right, here's my condition. Oh no, I was really going for those 2 military wonders and, so many have already been built. Now, I don't have a chance to do that. So I got to rethink my strategy and go for the other victory condition. So I thought that was really cool. A reason you may not want to add this into your collection, something that is at least for me, quite a bit intimidating and just frustrating is the setup component, right? So the setup takes almost, I'm being sarcastic, but it takes almost as long as the game itself, right? So you gotta do the tiles, and then I set up the board in that playthrough for just, the standard game. But then in the normal game, to randomize, you're gonna roll a die to pick a side, A or B, set up the base tiles for, and then each player gets a couple extra tiles and they place those out, and that's all right and all, but the original setup then, handing out all the players all their stuff and then setting up the wonders, finding the tokens, that was a little frustrating. So if you don't like games that take a good minute to set up and play, do it in the right capacity, and then a game that you got to constantly look back at the book, this one's gonna it's gonna be a miss, or it's gonna sit on your shelf and not get played as often as you want. So those are kind of my takes on it. I'm really happy to have this game because I do enjoy area control games and I don't own too many of them. And like I said, when I get in those kind of Civ modes, I really kind of want to break this out. But what kind of pulls it back from breaking out a little more often for me are two things. One, the setup takes a while, but then two, there's only I think 5 or 6 of the victory cards, and you're randomly picking 3. I get that, but very quickly the victory conditions become stale. So while there's replayability in the layout of the map, there isn't replayability in where they kind of focus or guide you towards in terms of victory. I see what they were going for, and as someone who has played well over 100 hours of Civ on the PC, there's different paths to victory, and yeah, I think they could have done a little bit more there. But anyway, guys, that's my take. I do enjoy Civilization: A New Dawn. If you like it, if you have any thoughts, leave a comment below. If you like the content, feel free to give a subscribe. But otherwise, guys, thanks for joining me. As always, appreciate the support. Until next time, thanks for watching.